And welcome to day 12 of Cook for Victory. My name is Maddie.
And my name is Millie, and tonight we are cooking at Cookery School at Little Portland Street.
And as my history, I've been a pastry chef for over 12 years in Australia, and I've done 3 years teaching here at Cookery School.
I'm from London. I did my professional training here, and before that was a private chef in Italy.
And our job now, over these past few nights, is to get you guys at home cooking delicious, tasty, simple, crowd-pleasing meals. And tonight is no different.
No, we're making spaghetti and meatballs. We're also going to do 2 types of muffins, so something a little sweet to end on. So to get started, we're going to make a lovely tomato sauce. So we're going to grab ourselves some chopping boards, our pots and pans, and get started. As
always, you'll be shocked to know we're starting with an onion and we're going to caramelize it. I know, it's crazy at this point. We've got ourselves beautiful onion. If you are doing these at home, I think similar to every other night, we're doing a veggie version, which I will be doing, and then a meat version, which Mill will be taking care of. Either or, if you want to challenge and you want to get us steamed up like us, you can do both. It's going to be a push, but why not?
Right.
All right, we are ready.
One more thing.
As always, we start with our onion. We're going to take the top off.
May I have a knife?
You may have a knife. Those manners, just lovely.
Right, so yeah, chopping the top off. So we've got a nice flat surface. Putting our fingers between, so we've got something stable to chop on. Oh my gosh, I've got a second.
Oh, second skin.
Second skin. So if you want to do a very coarse chop, maybe you hate chopping or you can't be bothered tonight, you can do it very coarsely and then give it a quick blend if you've got a stick blender. Or if you want it to go very quick, you can chop it nice and fine to start with and it will cook a little bit faster.
That is what we'll be doing for tonight, yes, chopping it nice and small. As well, this sauce we're going to take quite liquid because we're going to cook the meatballs in the sauce. So we don't want it to be super chunky, we want it to be quite a loose liquidy sauce tonight.
So fine chopping, we're going to draw lines all the way across the onion but not going all the way through to the root.
Leaving a nice gap. And again, the smaller you can go this way, the smaller the other way is better.
And as soon as we've chopped our onions, we're going to pop them in the pot, just like always, starting from cold. So no heat before we put them in the pan, and then with some olive oil and a good pinch of salt. If it starts to wobble, you're just going to push it over and chop around the root. Get rid of it.
1, half down.
Uno.
Pardon? Sorry.
Right. There we go. So just as I chop them, I'm going to put mine in the pan, but they are, of course, off the heats. So yeah, no secret that we like to start everything with fried onions, but they are a very, very good basis for flavour.
And again, same, it's all about the flavour of the onions.
And
nice.
If you're not taking them super caramelised, you're just ending up losing out a little bit on flavour at some point.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Same old, cold onions, cold oil, cold pan, nice and small so that they cook quickly. And we have our usual pinch of salt in with your oil and in with your onions, and a good dash of water on the side just in case.
So we're using extra virgin olive oil, but if you wanted to, you could swap it for something a little bit more neutral, but making a lovely Italian dish tonight, so good to stick to the originals.
And we are doing 2 identical sauces. So although we're doing them separately here, they're going to be the exact same. Both Millie and I are doing the same.
And if you're following on doing the vegetarian, this is why we're doing 2 different ones. Mine are going to simmer in the sauce. Maddie's going to bake her rolled meatballs and pop hers in the oven and then simmer hers in the sauce once hers are ready as well. So big pinch of salt, not for flavouring, but just to break them down. And you might start crying at this point because it's a little oniony.
You may start crying at this point.
So I'm going to toss them to combine. So they're covered in all the oil.
And then
we're going to leave them.
We're going to be patient and we're going to leave them.
Yes.
And move on to our garlic. I think whatever you like, you can use a mincer, you can use a knife, but it always starts with crushing them. You can use a plate, you can use your Jeffrey. If you love Jeffrey so much, Believe it or not, in the real world, his name is not Jeffrey.
And we get ours from Bakery Bits.
We get them from Bakery Bits, and I believe they're just called plastic bench scrapers. You can get red or blue. So if you're looking for that, we use Jeffrey every single day. Have a look at Bakery Bits. They've got some cool stuff, but this is your best friend. And our best friend.
So you'll hear sizzling, but until we have browning, we're not going to touch our onions. So it's a good time to just do the rest of your prep while they are cooking.
Even though it's quick, it's not that quick.
And I just want to make sure they're in one single layer. You've not got like loads like bundled up on one side. They're just spread out in your pan. They'll get good even heat.
I'm taking off the little garlic paper.
So much paperwork
So
tonight.
much paperwork. The admin is crazy. And then just cutting off that little dry bit at the end so that they can quite easily go through the mincer.
All right. We've got 2 tonight.
Press,
Lucky
go,
us.
whatever you like. And again, we're just going to keep this on the side of our board until our onions are nice and caramel.
So we have done this a couple of times already. So hopefully just a recap, but if you are joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. There's the benefit of doing a lovely live stream.
Yes.
Every night we get to see all of your feedback in real time.
And I guess if you don't have a fantastic mincer, you are going to be chopping with your knife, hand on top of your knife and just going back and forth. I call it the pizza cut, Lily calls it the rock chop. Whatever gets you to something, it doesn't have to be this small exactly, it's just so that it can spread evenly through the sauce.
And I'm adding a big splash of water to stop them from burning and also to help them soften a little bit. So as soon as you see the water turn brown, it's a good sign you are dissolving all that excess sugar off the bottom, stopping it from burning and helping it cook nice and fast. So we've got a little bit of parsley, got some dried oregano which doesn't need to be chopped, but if you are chopping herbs, you're going to keep them in a nice tight bundle.
And if I've got quite a few stalks on tonight, because they're all very niftily up the end like this, I'm going to chop the majority of it off. If you're not, just cut them small. They will get very tender in your pot. And if you're a super pro chopper like Mill, the smaller you can cut it, yeah, the smaller you can cut it, the easier it is for it to get tender as it's cooking.
So we're just keeping an ear out for how these are cooking. So it's doing this kind of wet, bubbly,
Noise.
Starting to sizzle. So I know most of the water is boiling off, but it's still pretty wet. So I don't have to even look at it yet. I can just ignore it for another minute or two. And we have gone from totally off the heat to a high bubble as fast as our hobs can go.
And this is going to get us that nice brown colour quite quickly so that we can set it aside at the back and let it simmer away until it's nice and cooked.
So yeah, if you are feeling lazy, you can just chop everything quite coarsely and give it a blend at the end. But if you want a nice smooth textured sauce, you're going to chop everything very, very fine. And maybe use something like passata, which is a sieved chopped tomato. So very, very smooth texture. All right, we're looking pretty good in terms of prep. Yeah. Let's check our onions. So now the water has boiled off. I can start to see the oil coming out again. Quick toss, let it resettle.
So we're pretty happy in terms of prep. We've got our garlic, we've got our parsley, and again we are using our can of chopped tomato. We've got some tomato puree, which is like a concentrate of the tomato sauce that we've got as well. And as always, it does need to cook for quite a long time with a good hit of water so we can forget about it. In terms of our onions,
let's have a look at
they do have a little bit of nice browning on the bottom already.
Gorgeous.
So you can add that dash of water.
And if Maddie's are ready, mine won't be too far. I've got a slightly smaller burner tonight, so that's why mine's not moving quite as quick, even though mine are more finely chopped. It's a little hot and steamy, so just step back when you're adding your water.
In terms of colour, mine are like a light golden. They've still got a little while to go yet, so we're going to pop them back in and practice some patience. Practice some patience, cool, calm, collected. For the veggie version of these, so no meatballs or meatless meatballs or whatever you want to call them, it does start the same. We've got our onion that we're going to chop quite finely to cook, and then our garlic, and then the mushrooms. You can either go in the food processor, or you can start your mushrooms chopping them up really, really finely. They should look like mince. I'm going to show you one now because I'm going to use the nifty food processor for my mushrooms. But I'm going to show you how to chop up a mushroom now while these onions are going. And I think Millie is going to monitor the onions for us.
So otherwise, we've just got all our ingredients lined up. So we've got some tomato puree or sun-dried tomato paste if you have that. Dried oregano, optional but lovely traditional ingredient.
You can
and
use
also
fresh oregano if you like. Dried oregano is lovely. The reason I'm showing you now is because it will take me maybe 30 seconds to pulse the mushrooms. But if you're chopping mushrooms for your meatless meatballs, you should probably start very soon because it's going to take you a little while. Basically, depending on the size of the mushroom, I would just quarter it. And then you are just going over and over and over and over again until it's really super small, keeping your hand on top of the knife as best you can, just back and forth. You've got a Jeffrey, gather it up with your Jeffrey, and you're just going back and forth until it's a tiny, tiny mince.
So just then, Maddie's onions were starting to get a little dark, on their way to catching, and that big splash of water is like an emergency stop in cooking, just stopping it from getting too dark. I'm actually going to swap these over so they can continue to cook evenly. Ooh.
They are exactly the same at this stage as well.
Oh, another donation.
Another donation to the floor gods.
Got to happen every night.
Yeah.
It's not a Cook for Victory
It's a
episode without
sacrifice.
dropping something on the floor.
Yeah, a nightly sacrifice. So for these mushroom balls, meatless balls, veg balls, we're getting it as small as we possibly can because we want all of the water to disappear very, very quickly. If you have watery mushrooms, which is very likely if you don't cook them for long enough, it just means you're going to have very watery balls, mushroom balls. So we want them to be nice and shape as well. Yes, we want them to be nice and firm. I might not have the time tonight to set them in the fridge, but they are a lot firmer and easier to shape if you can let them sit in the fridge for a little while to firm up and soak up the breadcrumbs that we'll put in. But the smaller that you get them, the better they're going to be for you later on. All right, that is pretty much what you're looking for your mushrooms. So really, really small, mincy, and it means they'll cook super quickly, pull out all that water. And if you have a food processor, you're going to try and get to that as well on your pulse section.
And as we were saying in one of our earlier episodes, mushrooms will shrink about half in volume. So even if this is looking small, it's going to get way, way smaller.
Way
They're
smaller.
about 50% water. And we are not too far off on our onions. They will begin to caramelize much, much quicker once all the sugar begins to be drawn out by the salt and the water. So you just want to keep a much closer eye on them as time goes on. So I think once this last addition of water has boiled off, we might begin the rest of our sauce. And basically once we caramelize our onions, almost everything is going to go in the pot at once. We will briefly fry our garlic and our tomato puree, but pretty much everything in, and then we're going to let it simmer in the back, and it can just go for at least 20 minutes. In the meantime, just while we're waiting on those, you can peel your onion, peel your garlic for the meatballs. That's going to be the first stage.
And I'll do the exact same for my mushrooms.
So while sometimes it seems like cooking takes a little bit of time, you can do loads of things at the same time while things cook or while they sit in the fridge. It's not necessarily all active time, so it's good to batch do things so you're not just hanging around waiting for stuff to cook or.
And I will say these veggie mushroom balls make a lot. They're a good mass feed, these ones.
Not too far.
And these we're going to go quite small again. For me, I'll be cooking mine as part of the flavour for the vegetable mushroom balls. So I'm going to cut them quite small again, just to speed up that cooking process.
And always keeping your chopping board nice and clean, especially with all those bits of onion root. Right, I think we are there. Looking good. Just a tiny splash of water just because they're going a little dark. They'll boil off in about 2 seconds anyway. Yeah, there we go. And same for Maddie's.
Is it garlic time?
It's garlic time. So this is just like my in-pot cleaner, a little bit of water. So this is my one.
Oh.
Very protective. And we can also go in with our tomato paste or sun-dried tomato puree at this point. Give that a really quick stir until fragrant, which if your pot is on the heat, should be within 10 or 15 seconds. If it's on a slightly lower temperature, maybe 30 seconds to a minute.
Mine is definitely ready.
And mine is also ready. So now we can add in our tin of tomatoes plus a tin of water, our oregano, and our parsley.
Thank you. And as per usual, and again, we did say we're going to do it quite saucy this time. We're going to add a full can of water. Oh, I was going to do yours. Into both, so that we can let it cook, kind of forget about it for a while. We'll put it on the back and say goodbye to our tomato sauce.
Thank you. Right.
Oregano
Let's bring it up
in,
to the boil and then pop
parsley
it in the back.
in. Got very quiet and less steamy all of a sudden. It's almost like those onions were so loud. So you should have everything in right now. It should be quite liquid, very brightly coloured, kind of reds and greens, and we're looking for something that's a little bit thicker, and it's starting to go dark brown and oily on the side. So we're going to bring these to the boil very quickly, and then we're going to put them to sleep on our back burner while we start our meatballs and meatless balls.
Mushroom balls.
Mushroom balls.
It's the name's a work in progress.
A work in progress, yes. You can call them whatever you like.
For our meatballs, you're going to do your onions as finely as you can. Some people might even grate them because you want them to be really small, that add a little bit of moisture and good flavour. So once again, a fine dice, but even smaller than before, because these aren't going to be fried, so you're just going to get this raw onion flavour otherwise.
Okay.
So I'm doing lots and lots of very, very, very small slices towards the root, but not all the way through it.
And keeping it together all in one piece.
Keeping my fingers all the way back. And for me, it's quicker to do lots and lots of fine chops like this than it is to do it kind of coarsely and keep chopping over and over and over again. So now I've got my very, very fine one. I'm going to go across it in a 45, sorry, what is it?
90.
90, thank you.
Maths.
I hate maths.
I love maths.
Good for you. That's why you're a pastry chef.
That's why I'm a pastry chef.
Precise chef versus not so precise.
Cook with your heart, isn't that right?
Mm-hmm. Right, these will come up to the boil. I'm going to send these to the back for a nice little hot nap.
Hot nap, a steamy nap. So these ones are going to go back to just cook. Keep your ear out for if they're drying out, you'll start to hear it won't be like a liquid bubble. It will be more of like a dry bubble and start to catch on the bottom. It might need some more water. For me, if you're doing the veggie version, these onions are getting cooked as they always do, just like we did for our tomato sauce. So you're going to need to get a pan and a lot of oil.
So just a quick recap with our tomato sauce. We had some fried onions, then we added in some garlic briefly to toast it. Then we added in tomato paste, gave that a quick fry as well in the olive oil, added in oregano, parsley, and a tin of tomatoes, and a tin of water, brought it up to the boil, and now we just sent it to the back to continue cooking.
Sleep.
For a nice hot little sleep. So I'm just chopping around the roots to get those last little bits of onion.
This may look like a lot of oil in your recipe. It's kind of a stage oil, so don't dump it in all on the first go. I think it's about half or a bit less than half for your onion. Some will be for your mushrooms, some will be for your tray. So don't go nuts and put all your oil in on the first hog, because otherwise you'll be deep frying your onions.
Which will taste amazing.
Which will taste delicious, but it will also take a very long time.
So going as fine as possible. If you're not feeling super confident in your skills though, maybe use a grater. That will really make your eyes hurt though.
That will really make your eyes hurt. Yeah, you think chopping onions hurts? Pooh. Wait until you do your eyes. All right, onions in as usual, big chunk of salt and a nice high heat. Just like your, oh no, wrong one.
Sorry.
Little toss about. And then patience, 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 patience.
So if you're on meat, we're still on a fine dice. I'm hoping you're not speeding way ahead of me.
Patience.
But if you have already done this, we're going to start to peel your garlic.
And I'm about to make a whole lot of noise. So, like I said, we're aiming in terms of consistency for our mushrooms to be something like this. If you have been chopping this whole time for mushrooms, good job. If you have a food processor, It's best if you can use the pulse setting, and I might even do half and half. Because sometimes you make kind of mushroom water on the bottom and you've still got whole mushrooms on the top. So we want them all to be like of a mincy variety. So I'm going to start with half the mushrooms. I'm just going to pulse, and then we'll go with the other half. And this is a very quick version of chopping. We just want them to look like mince, similar to Millie's beef mince that she's got.
Yeah, so in case you haven't picked up, Maddie's on vegetarian tonight as always, and I'm
always
doing my meaty version, lovely beef mince for my meatballs.
And don't have to cook the onions for your meatballs, which is very
Woohoo!
nice.
We've already done them for our tomato sauce.
We've already, yeah. So I'm just pulsing. You really don't want to take it too far. Okay. So you can see in terms of consistency, in a matter of seconds, I've got them roughly the same. And these will go in once our onions are nice and caramel. Just be careful of your blade. Don't go sticking your hands in. I speak from experience. They are very sharp. They're not just a fake blade that's blunt. It's very, very sharp and it can cut quite easily.
That is amazing. I love technology.
2 seconds, it's easy. And then I'm going to go in with the other half of my mushrooms as well.
Your onions are making me cry.
I'm sorry about my onions.
Again.
Just enjoying this now. All right, my mushrooms are ready. And again, I am being very careful of the blade. I always take it out and put it here. I think that's because I did cut myself really badly one time and now I'm scared of it. But just be careful. It's a knife. Okay, and then we will, once these mushrooms are cooked with our onions and everything, these will go back in the food processor with everything else. If you don't have one, you've chopped your mushrooms, you're going to cook them, you're basically using a potato masher to get it to that same stage. We still don't want it to be a puree, it needs to be still mincy looking as well. But I'm pretty happy with that.
Whew. Right. Maddie's onions are beginning to take on colour, and sometimes all you need to do is forget about them for them to brown nice and fast. A bit of water. Clean off the browning and then let them settle again. So over in Team Meat, we've got some very, very finely chopped onions, finely chopped garlic cloves, or mince if you have a mincer, even better, and some finely chopped parsley. So just because I do want it as fine as can be, I will twist off the stems in this situation, but normally I'd keep them on. You know, chop it up, put it in your tomato sauce if you'd like to.
For your veggie version, like I said, everything else is going in here. I'm just going to give everything a very, very rough chop. It's really just the herbs, the garlic. The machine will do a lot of the work, but it can't make parsley this big into this big in a pulsing motion. So I'm just going to really roughly chop everything. Going to put it all in a bowl on the side for when my onions are ready and my mushrooms are ready and cooked, so we can pop them in. The garlic as well. I don't want the machine to miss it, so I'm just going to give it a very loose chop. Just so that when I pop it in, oh no, I'm going to put it in with the onions to cook it for a little bit actually. So I do have to chop it. Oh, a shame.
Right, I'm just going to give my parsley a little fluff so I can get all those big bits, make sure everything's rotating evenly. Rocking with my hand on top of my knife to keep my fingers out of the way.
I can hear my onions calling.
They are calling to you.
They're calling to me.
They're calling to my eyes.
They're starting to get crispier on the outside. I've got a few with quite a bit of colour and a bit of dark brown on the bottom. So again, I'm just going to give them a dash of water. They've got plenty of oil, as we saw to start.
Right, so I've got my parsley, my garlic and my onions in a bowl. Now come in to the equation my binding agent. So I've got some breadcrumbs. So you all know how to make bread now. So you can make breadcrumbs from scratch. Brilliant way to use up leftover breads. We freeze ours here and actually use a magic mix to blend them up, or you could use a rough box grater or something. I'm going to crack an egg into my mix, and then I'm going to season it with some salt. If you want pepper, you could add pepper, and then I'm going to add my mince, and we're going to very, very lightly mix this until just combined.
I've got actually a ton of time here as well.
And Maddie's onions are definitely on their way, not too far off now.
Beautiful. beautiful. This is all going in the same dish. I've got my egg to combine. I've got plenty of breadcrumbs. I do have some backup breadcrumbs as well, just in case your mushrooms are very hot. Hot's very wet.
Ooh. Good. And my last two ingredients, so salt. This is a pretty bang on amount of salt, so just add it in. It's a teaspoon. It's always very, very well seasoned, this one. I'm just going to give this a really quick mix to break up that egg, and then I'm going to pop my meat in. Kind of like making our muffins later. As soon as I have my meat in, if I start mixing it really, really hard, you're going to get very dense, tough meatballs. So I just want to do a little bit of a pre-mix here before I get those involved. And the eggs and the breadcrumbs will bind it, but also make it a little bit moist, which is lovely.
All right, thank you. I'm almost ready. My garlic should be very close, and then it's kind of mushrooms to cook on top, and then we're almost ready to go.
So the meat version is a little bit simpler, mainly because meat carries a lot of flavour, it's got lots of fat, so you don't need quite as much to add to it to make it super delicious. So I'm just going to gently break up this meat. You can mix with a fork. I personally like to use my hands just to get over and under, and I'm about to shape them anyway. My hand's going to get mucky regardless. I'm going to go a little smaller than your recipe tonight, just so we can get them all cooked in time. We're going to have little baby meatballs.
And I am pretty happy with my onions. Oh yeah. They've got that
Beautiful
nice caramel colour that we're always looking for. Could always go a little bit darker, but that's just my personal opinion. For these ones, they're going to cook again in the oven, so they'll get a bit more flavour there. For now, I'm going to pop my garlic in, and then pop this in a bowl. Garlic until fragrant, as always.
And I'm just still very, very lightly mixing. I'm really trying quite hard not to over mix this. And I'm tossing all the way from the bottom of the bowl to the top.
All of these onions, I'm just going to steal your bench space for a little bit, are going to go into this beautiful bowl. I'm going to get my lentils ready, and then the mushrooms I'm going to blast again to take out all that water. You'll need plenty of oil for your mushrooms. Plenty, plenty, plenty.
All right, I am ready to start shaping because I look like everything's mixed in nicely. I don't want to keep mixing on forever and ever, otherwise I'll get very tough, stodgy little meatballs. While you've got clean hands,
Yes.
could you bring me that frying pan, please?
I can.
So I can begin shaping them.
Go a good hog for your
So we're going to mix
mushrooms.
very, very lightly and also form them lightly, otherwise we'll get our dense meatballs.
And I'm going to put a good pinch of salt in as well. And these ones, again, we are looking for them to release their water so that there's no water in the meatballs at the end.
So I'm going for little baby, like walnuts or something, quite small.
Walnuts?
Walnuts or little golf balls or something. And shaping them very, very lightly. And if you've got a friend with clean hands, if you can pour the oil in. I'm going to pop them in now into a cold pan and we'll begin frying them.
Is your friend called Maddie?
Your friend is called Maddie, you're so right. I'll pop them in. Once I've got them all shaped, I'll begin frying them. So I've got a nice large frying pan. But of course, if you haven't got one big one, you can do them in multiple batches to make sure they get really good browning.
And I've got with me...
Wow, so much water has come off that already.
Yeah, so much water has come off that. I'm just going to gather all my business. I've got my lentils. I will say they could probably be exchanged for some other sort of carb, starch. Sorry, but these or pulse. These
Anything
are
not
like
too soft.
anything not too soft. These are like quite strong in terms of lentils. So that's all going in. That's just one tin. And again, it feeds plenty. I've given them a good drain and a good rinse to make sure there's not too much water in there. I've got my thyme. I've got my parsley. So this is what will go into the food processor once the mushrooms are ready. And the last thing that will go in is the egg.
So ideally, you're just mixing as little as possible at this stage, just so you don't make it too fine. That's not going to be a very lovely texture. And your
pinch of salt can go in there. Breadcrumbs, like I said, it will probably take the whole cup, but you may need a touch more depending on how your mushrooms are in terms of wateriness.
So meat's got lots of protein in it, so I can be really light with this and it should hold together once the proteins start to set and cook. Whereas Maddie's ones, she needs a little more breadcrumbs to bind. And also the starchiness of the beans
and the egg will help
things.
to bind as well.
Yes, yes.
There is so much water coming off these mushrooms.
Crazy.
It looks like soup at the moment.
I'm going to see how many I can fit in here. Hopefully all of them. So let us know how you're doing for time. If you are just a little bit behind, you can pause, you can always rewind. We'll be here.
If you're still chopping mushrooms because you don't have a food processor, good job. I feel like I've done all the mushrooms.
I can't believe you've beaten me.
So many different types of mushrooms. Yeah, but a food processor does go a long way.
It does.
Go a long way.
How's your soup?
That's my soup. My soup is souping.
Soup is souping? Good.
So these mushrooms, I don't know if you can see, they are sloppy as heck. So there is quite a bit of liquid. They've got a while to go before they're going to be ready. I'm going to get my tray with some paper and a bit of oil on top so that they don't stick, and I'm going to turn my oven on to high, 230, 240, and I'm going to roll them quite small as well. So if you haven't popped your oven on, now's a good time. Talking really high.
Do you think I could be really annoying and ask you to get me a little frying pan for my extras?
Mm-hmm.
Right, I've just realised I've got a couple more meatballs than I thought I was going to have. Usually I roll them a little bit bigger so I can fit them all in, but just because tonight I'm going a bit smaller, I'm running out of space in my frying pan. And as I was saying, I won't have time to do a second batch, so I'll just get them going at the same time. Sorry for the rustling in the back. This is still like very wet and bubbly, soupy sounding. And our mushrooms are on full blast already, just so we can get all of the water to evaporate. Otherwise, we'll be here for 10 years.
That's okay. Yeah, you will be there for 10 years. So
You
many
can put mine on.
babies.
So now I've got one full pan of meatballs with a little bit of room in between them. There'll be room for all of the water to evaporate off. I'm going to start frying all my meatballs. I've only got a couple more left.
This should make 20 huge ones-ish. It makes quite a bit. Put a good bit of oil on your tray. It will help the outsides to get really nice and crispy for your veggie versions in a nice hot oven. They don't need the mushrooms are cooked, the onions are cooked. We're just looking to cook out our egg and kind of bind them together. So they actually don't need too long, but we are looking for a nice crispy outside because we need to be able to toss them through the sauce later on. So they need to have a bit of like a sturdiness to them. So we'll give them lots of space in a nice hot oven with a little bit of oil on the tray. We should still have a dash left from that whole cup that we started with. And we'll put a little bit of oil on top again just to get nice and crispy. I do have a second tray just in case it makes way more than we think. I'm going to do them quite small tonight.
And I'll give Maddie a hand as well. So if you have been doing the meat ones, you're going to just sanitize your bench if you've got any meat there, give your hands a really good wash. And we're going to begin frying them on as many sides as we can so they get lovely and brown. So that's going to create a lot of flavor in our pot. Already our tomato sauce is simmering away. Once they're brown on a couple of sides, we're going to pop them in the pot and they can just soak up all that delicious sauce. Thank you, madam.
I'm coming.
I got it. Double sanitized.
Double sanitized.
And this has now lost almost all its water. I can drag a spoon through it. I can't see any big bubbles, and the oil is starting to be re-released again, so we are not too far off. I've got both of my pans on, I'd say medium high. It's not quite max heat like the mushrooms are on, but pretty hot, just so we can get them browning a little bit in a decent amount of olive oil. Right.
A respectable amount of olive oil.
Are we ready? Almost.
4. Yeah.
See, they're getting there. I'm going to turn this right up again.
It's not too far off. I'm going to get my first bit ready. So lentils in, all that stuff that we had before. I'm going to say definitely go in with all your breadcrumbs. Rarely is this dry enough that you don't need that whole cup, and again you may need a little bit more.
If you don't have a kettle or your hob's a bit on the slow side, put a pot of water on to boil now for your pasta. Nice big deep sauce pots.
So in here is everything except the mushrooms. So we've got our cooked onion, our garlic, parsley, thyme, 1 egg. Usually you don't need any more, and then that cup of breadcrumbs. It's also got a good pinch of salt in there to start as well. We're going to season our tomato sauce really, really well, but that pinch of salt is usually enough if you've got your pinch of salt in with your mushrooms as well. I'm not going to put the egg in just yet because I know that the mushrooms will be a touch hot and I don't want to put it on top straight away. So don't want to have a fried egg in my meatballs.
So ideally go till these are really brown, very, very dry. At this point, they have released all their water, and we do want to get these in the oven within the hour.
Yeah.
So I think we might take ours out tiny bit on the early side, but they are no longer releasing water. So they are definitely at a good stage at this point. But ideally let them go very, very dark brown. It will help the flavor of this. So both the fried onions and the fried mushrooms really boost this because it is a vegetarian recipe. It needs kind of as many helping hands as it can get.
Absolutely. So in terms of what we're looking for, I can see there's no water dripping off. It's just a little bit of oil. It's dry in the pan. It can always go longer, but I'm going to get this in the Maggi now. Otherwise, I'm going to be here all night cooking these mushrooms.
Good.
They can really take a really long time. All right. And Millie's so nice. She's going to help me shape them.
You got your little jug of water?
Yeah.
So you can add the hot mushrooms to the Maggi mix, but we're just going to mix it as soon as possible, just so we don't add anything hot and just leave it there for ages, and also so our eggs don't scramble. My meatballs starting to look really good. I just lifted one and it was absolutely fine. You good?
Yeah, I'm going all in, going to give it a quick blitz and then chuck my egg in right at the end. And again, on the pulse, not the auto or whatever other speed you have. Pulse, 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 pulse. We're trying to keep a little bit of integrity of our ingredients.
And our tomato sauce is getting on well. I just gave them a quick stir and they're not even stopping on the bottom yet, so looking good.
And the egg is in. I'll use that bowl now.
Oh yes. Really helpful.
There's a bowl at the back with some water in it.
Bowl in the back.
Of the trolley.
Yes, madam. All right. So.
Beautiful. All right, again, this could use some time in the fridge to soak up a little bit of the moisture.
But we're going to add a little bit of breadcrumbs to this just because it is quite wet, just to help them hold their shape and keep, I think we can add all these in.
Yeah, go for it. You might not need that if you set yours in the fridge. Again, this is hot, it's still a little bit sloppy. So we're going to shape these now, get them in the oven, but if you have the time, even just standing them to the side and letting them cool, it will get much firmer. We've got a little bowl of water, just because this is going to get a little bit messy.
So I'm going to just begin gently turning these. They haven't fully set because they are only cooked on one side. So don't be shaking your pan too hard, otherwise you'll end up with a very ugly bolognese.
They're not strong yet.
It's getting there, but they're looking golden brown on one side, which is perfect. So I've had one casualty, but that's not too bad.
And again, I'm going to go as small as I possibly can, just so that they have a nice crisp outside. And believe it or not, they're going to have more oil on the top to crisp them up.
So you can use tongs once they're a little bit firmer, or instead of two spatulas, quite good. Might get a little bit spitty.
I like your two spoon
one,
system there, Mill.
Okie dokie. Won't need too much longer now. And once they're set, I can begin to use set tongs to fish them out quite easily. How are we doing?
We need some help from Millie.
All right.
And we need more oil.
Oh. Bad timing.
More oil, I think I never thought I'd say, but here we go. Oh, she's beautiful.
So a little bit like making bread is you just keep moving them quickly between your hands. They shouldn't stick too bad. And wetting them helps a lot.
A lot.
Or you can use a little bit of oil as well.
Yeah, oil is fine. Just expensive. Your meatballs are calling.
I just turn them. I think they will be okay for now.
Yeah.
They are calling really hard. No.
These meatballs are calling harder. All right, I did say 20, but it's probably going to be more like 40 at this size. We're going to do 2 trays worth, and then I can show you what the mix looks like after it's stood for a little while.
Good point to get a friend involved.
It is a good point to get a friend involved, or a child. Get them to help with dinner.
To be honest, it already looks really meat-like.
It does.
Kind of looks like kofta mix or
It's
something.
got definitely got the meaty vibe about it, and these will seize up really nicely in the oven as well. They may look sloppy now, but they get better.
I'm just going to turn my meatballs down just while I'm not watching them quite as attentively.
Quite as attentively. You're not listening to their call.
If you're a little on the wet side with your meatballs, they might spread out a touch in the oven, so just give them a little bit of room between. Oh yes, this is quick when you've got a couple of people. I'm doing mine a little more ugly than yours, I'm sorry.
I was going to say yours look beautiful, Millie.
Yes, lady. And you could even use 2 spoons if you didn't want to get your hands quite so
Do
mucky.
a little quenelle. All right. Like I said, good drizzle of olive oil before they go in to help them stay crispy.
And my favourite spatula.
And your favourite spatula, your
My
hand.
All right, I'll get these out
And
of the way.
again, really nice, hot, hot, hot oven. Watch your face as you open it. That's always a fun one. Say about 15 minutes to start, we'll see. Again, everything is mostly cooked, so we're just looking to get crispy and to have them hold together.
So we're using a fan oven tonight. So we've got it on, what did you say, 250. You could do it on a high temp, so at least 200 up to 220 if you're in a little bit less of a rush. But basically just something that's nice and warm so we can set our meatballs and actually continue to brown them in the oven for extra flavour. So we've just given our hands a good wash because we've been touching raw eggs.
These smell really good, Mil. Really, really nice. So I'm going to get the water going for the pasta to match the meatballs. Our meatballs ideally will simmer in our sauce for a little while, so we're going to get our sauce going as well. But for now you need a big pot. We're doing spaghetti again tonight full of water, nice and high. I don't think we need to show it, but you need a huge pot full of water and follow your packet. So we've got the same packet that we had a couple of nights ago, or a few nights ago now. And we've got spaghetti that says
8 minutes.
8 minutes in a very vicious boil, not a simmer.
So at this point, my sauce has reduced down quite nicely. I can actually draw a spatula through it. I'm going to have the quickest of seasons, pop my meatballs in the pot, just because as soon as we add the meatballs in, I don't want to be stirring it and breaking it up. Otherwise, you'll end up with a bolognese that you didn't want.
I'm going to season mine as well after you've popped yours in.
No, you can put yours on here. I'll move my nice fried balls. And now they're a little bit more set. They can be combined. Do you want to bring forward the pot of water as well? To show everyone. So, I'm going to have a little taste. It's only had a tiny bit of salt to start. Not bad actually. A little tart, which means it usually needs a good hit of salt. So I've got some water on to boil, but a little quicker if you've got induction or a kettle. And it needs to be lots and lots of room, otherwise your pasta's going to stick. Do you want to try mine?
More? I do want to try yours.
I'll just add a little bit of salt.
More
A little more.
Tastes good, but just that little bit more salt.
Not going to
I
add
think
all.
mine's going to be very similar as well.
So if it's tasting a little sour, either you maybe didn't brown your onions for long enough, or you need a little bit more salt to counteract that. So as soon as we've done this, we're going to get started on our muffins.
So both
Good. Right.
happy days.
So in go my meatballs into my tomato sauce because they must simmer in the sauce. And I'm going to add all that extra olive oil as well because it's got very, very good flavour.
That looks lovely.
Right, I'm going to pop this on back.
And so, if you've missed, my sauce actually looks very similar because it is the exact same recipe.
Shocking.
We're not going to be as vicious as Mill has been with her meat ones. As soon as they're out, we're going to give them a very, very light toss in the sauce because they're a little bit more tender, so they don't have as much protein to hold them together. But this one's going to lid on, a nice happy simmer to finish off the cooking process and kind of soften out the outer ridges.
So I'm just adding a lid just to cook it from the top down because it might still be a touch pink. Ooh, touch pink in the middle. So I've brought it back up to the boil and lid on, and we're going to forget about it for now. So, on to muffins.
On to muffins.
First thing we have to do is just to chop a couple of dry ingredients.
Millie is going to do the savoury version. So, cheese and herbs. You could do paprika and cheese, anything you like. This is the savoury version. It's going to take a big pinch of salt. I'm doing the sweet version. I've chosen banana for tonight. You could do blueberries. You could do a bit of cooked apple, cinnamon sugar. They should be bing bang bosh. Put them straight in the oven. You've got yourself a treat. They don't take too long, but they do take a little bit of preparation. So we are going to prepare ourselves with a muffin tin. We're doing a half recipe each, otherwise we would be drowning in muffins. So, but one recipe makes 8 good muffins, or half a recipe makes 4 muffins. You can use a paper if you like. We tend to do oil, brush it through a little bit, and flour, because these ones, because they can be quite sticky, but mostly about half your muffin will stick to the paper. So, if you do your oil and flour, be generous. Don't be stingy with your oil and flour because it's just going to help them not to stick. And I think the best part about a muffin is the muffin top. So don't be shy painting around the outside. So don't just paint inside the muffin bit, paint around the outside as well, because that is one of the places that will stick quite heavily. And then, so we've got our oil. In my mind, the oil is for the tin and then the flour is for the muffin. So...
And I am just beginning to chop up my oniony element. So you can either use spring onions or chives. They just give like a nice contrast to the cheese. So I've finely chopped those. Then I've got some parsley and some thyme, just like herbs of choice, something that's nice and soft and will cook in the oven. Go well with a little bit of cheddar.
Yes.
With my thyme, I'm going to pull top down while Maddie's doing all her dusting.
So beautiful. So
beautiful.
Don't be shy. Otherwise they're just going to stick. There's no point to stinge on the flour. 4 for me, 4 for Millie.
My ones may make a tiny bit more because I've got quite a lot of mix-ins. So we'll just see how we go in terms of volume. How are you doing?
I'm going to put that away for a little bit to sleep. We've got ourselves some milk. Milk is subjective. You might need a little bit more, you might need a little bit less. You could use buttermilk if you like. We're just using straight whole milk tonight. Whole cream milk tonight. I've guessed, a very educated guess, for a half recipe, just under a half cup. But again, you might need a little bit more. And then you're going to have your dry ingredients for Millie and I both. We have our flour, we have an egg, we've got rapeseed oil, we've got salt, we've got baking powder, the main ingredient, and for me, a banana. Like I said, rapeseed oil, salt, baking powder, a little bit of sugar if you want it. It is technically a sweet muffin. I might save my sugar for the top and have a little crunch on top. And I'm going to do a few slices of banana on top as well. But you should be setting yourself up, and your main mixing ingredient, your fork.
Right, I've got all my herbs chopped. I've got all my cheese chopped, and this one is going to be a dry ingredient in this situation. So we are going to mix this into our flour, not into our milk. Otherwise, we're going to get very overmixed, tough muffins.
And we do not want to overmix our muffins.
Never.
Makes for bad muffins or little rocks. For your banana, it's always nice to know what type of muffin you're eating. So you're going to maybe use about half, or maybe a little bit less than, a little bit more than half, sorry. Inside your mix, you're going to use that as your wet ingredient. It's going to go in with your milk. You're going to give it a mash. This one, you're going to slice nicely, and it's going to go on top to say, hey, this is a banana muffin. Mashy mash. I'm actually going to mash it on this board because I find it a little bit easier than trying to mash it in a bowl. And then you'll never guess who's going to pick up my banana for me. His name is Jeffrey. Oh. Did you say you? I mean, Millie, you can come and pick up my banana.
Right, quick status report. These are beginning to firm up and get a little bit golden brown, which is great. But they need longer.
They need more crispiness.
Back in they go. And because we are bullying our mushroom meatballs, I put my second oven on to 200-ish, just to toast off our muffins, make sure they don't dry out, but also to cook them. Our other oven, unfortunately, is a little too hot for muffins at the moment.
Yeah, we can bully, but we can't be that mean, can we? All right, so I've got set myself up for success. I've got my few slices of banana to put on top. I've got my mashed banana inside, got all my dry ingredients, got some wet ingredients, got my egg, got my mixing utensil, a fork. Do you have a fork?
I've got a fork, yeah.
Oh, so nice.
So these are identical, just one is sweet and one is savoury. And if you are here from our scone episode,
yeah.
This is
same
the same,
process.
just a little bit more milk.
Yeah, same process. So in terms of your dry ingredients, salt, baking powder, absolutely inside, upside down. I was going to smash these together, but they're glass.
Oh,
so.
I did a very gentle
smash. Sugar I am keeping for the top. You don't necessarily need sugar. It's going to be a crunch for me.
Or your dries, your herbs.
Your herbs and your cheese, kind of your dry ingredients. And for me, I've got my mashed banana for my wet ingredients. I didn't go too sloppy. It's nice to see a little bit of actual banana, not just banana puree inside. And then I've got my egg inside. Again,
right.
A little bit of a mix. Oil, all in. We use rapeseed oil. Usually we try and stray away from olive oil. It's just got a really powerful flavour. And it's not for taste, it's more about to keep a moist crumb. All right, and then liquid. Okay, I'm going milk to the top. So I basically got a cup full of wet stuff, but you may not use it all. So don't just slog it all in and hope for the best. We're going to go majority, and then we're going to aim to undermix even to an extent. Very, very little mixing.
All right.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I finally caught up to Maddie.
So your mixing process is kind of like a cut and fold like Millie did with the meatballs. You're just rotating your bowl and chopping through. You're not just bashing it. We're trying to be really gentle. If you overmix it, these will be like rocks. So we want them to be really nice, soft and crumbly. I'm going in with that much. I don't know, that's about a quarter left.
But the nice thing about muffins compared to scones is these going to get spooned into a tin. So if we have overwetted them, it's not the end of the world. They'll just be a little more cakey.
And sometimes they souffle a little bit.
Yes. Right.
So
mine's definitely looking quite dry.
Yours looks quite dry. Mine looks on the wettish side. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. I'm not going to add all of it in. I think if I put it all in, it's going to be soup. So
do you think I can add all of mine in? I think.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it.
My one's always a touch drier. Maddie's got extra banana, which is kind of like an extra wet ingredient.
Yeah.
So, you know, we kind of didn't mix it all the way before we decided to add more milk. That's just so we can limit the mixing. So at this point, 1 or 2 more mixes for me, and I am also done.
And it looks pretty rough. You know, it's not smooth.
Bits
That's
of
good.
flour.
Yeah, it's by the time we scoop it in, it will finish that mixing process. So I'm really happy with the consistency for that.
Me too.
We're going to get our muffin tin. Here's some that we prepared earlier. It shouldn't be smooth. It should be rough and tumble. Even a few lumps. So long as all your flour is soaked up, we are happy. The less you mix this, the better your muffin is going to be. Please trust. Trust the process.
Right.
So these
and we're also, because we're doing half each, we're going to go here and here, rather than just kind of dotting them randomly so they cook nice and evenly in the oven as well.
Because we are going to rotate. 1 big spoon just to start.
And we're very minimally mixing.
Yeah, we're not
each time we
mixing
put it
as we're spooning it in. It's just 1 big spoon each.
1 drop.
And then I've made 1 really small for no reason.
So have I.
So I'm going to put some more in and then just dollop the rest in as you see. So they should be as even as you can possibly get. The wetter your mix is, the smoother the top of your muffin will be. So be that.
That's my last bit. So half comfortably makes 4 decent sized muffins.
Don't fill them like little teaspoons. They'll just be sad. I said we're going to do a banana. And then I did say I'm going to keep my sugar for the top for a little bit of a crunch. because that's what I like. Cinnamon sugar on top is really nice as well. But this is just going to make a little bit of a crunchy top. It will also help to stop your banana from sliding around as well. And it doesn't have any sugar in the mix, so a little teaspoon on each is not too bad, or a half teaspoon on each is not lovely. And it will get that nice colour in your nice hot oven as well.
And our very speedy ovens have just come up to temp, perfect timing. I'm going to put a big handful of salt in my pot of water to season my pasta water. And as soon as it's come up to that rolling boil,
these are going in the oven to hot, 200 minimum, 10 minutes minimum. 10 minutes minimum. Thought I was lying for a second there. We're almost there.
All right, we are there at that rolling boil. I'm going to put my pasta in that heavily seasoned water. Ooh. And just follow whatever it says on the packet. Usually if it's an Italian brand, they'll be a little more conservative on the timing. And I'm going to set my timer for, let's say 7 minutes, just 1 minute shy of what it says. And we can have a quick check of it. So just pushing down all those strands to make sure they're not poking out the top. And, oh yes, we'll have a little check on our meatballs just once I've got this boiling.
I also need to season my sauce. Now is a great time to check in on your mushroom meatballs in the oven, or season your tomato sauce if you're bored. Never. What are you doing? That's
not
crazy.
In an hour.
Yeah, this is hot and steamy in here. There should be no boredom. But send us a photo of what you've done so far, what your meatballs look like, if they're big monsters, because you've got people that love a huge meatball. That's great.
All right, grand reveal for mine.
Ooh.
So they should have soaked up the sauce nicely. The onions should have like really cooked in that time because they're being cooked from top down.
Smells.
And a sign of a good sauce, we've got this kind of layer of like lovely golden orangey oil on top, which just means all of the oil from the tomatoes has cooked
I feel like
out.
I've never seen it before. It's so beautiful.
It's all beautiful. So I'm just going to give it a shake. You want to be really gentle at this point, not to break them up. Just so I can make sure they are like sitting as deep as they can in the sauce. I'm going to have one quick season of my sauce, just see how they are. And this is kind of final seasoning before my pot of pasta is ready to go. How's yours looking, Maddie?
I'm thinking that these are looking absolutely fabulous.
Oh,
so
they look nice.
They've got a good crisp on them. They will seize together a little bit as they cool as well. These are so hot, I'm not even going to try and pick them up. However, I do need to season my sauce. These ones are best left alone until you serve. So we won't do the same thing that Mill does, tossing it through. If you have your tomato sauce,
nice and fun,
yeah, then they could be crispier as well. I will say, if you're at home and you've got a bit of spare time, these could take another minimum 10. They're crispy on the outside, they just need a little bit more to kind of season them together. So these ones you would put on top of your pasta and then your sauce on top, or vice versa, whatever you feel like. They're a little bit more tender, be gentle with them.
But they are looking pretty meaty.
And they are absolutely delicious. If they weren't 300 degrees, I would definitely eat one.
I was about to say, but I've learned from my lesson many times over. Every now and then give your pasta a stir just to stop it from sticking on the bottom. But we are almost ready to eat for another night of delicious home-cooked meals.
My beautiful tomato sauce. I also need to season this, but that's looking pretty good. I might add a tiny touch of water just so it can continue cooking on for a little while. Ooh, a pasta.
Just keep an eye on your pot. If you haven't got a giant one, it may start to bubble over, especially if you've slightly more than half filled it, like I have.
I'm thinking that this is going to need a good pinch of salt.
So usually it's best to season towards the end, just once it's got to its final texture. If you're going to continue reducing it, it will get saltier and saltier. Yeah,
I haven't put any salt in this so far. I'm going to put a good pinch, and then we'll see how we go, and then I think it's just about it, isn't it?
Yes. Looking good. You know what? Oh, these have shrunk quite a lot actually as well.
They have shrunk, yeah. I think there was...
So just extra water evaporating.
Am I going to go that last pinch? I think I am.
You are? I'm going to have a little taste of your meatballs because I love these. Meatless.
And mine looks pretty good in terms of colour. It's that nice kind of dark, getting that brown. It's not so bright green anymore. Our parsley is completely cooked.
And your muffins, once they go in, they will need at least 15 minutes to cook. But when we go in with your skewer, you should go in and get a nice clean skewer on the way out. Yeah, delicious. Oh my gosh.
Are they good?
So, think you can pop yours in the sauce now. Yeah, you're good on the salt for those.
Excellent.
Right. So at this point, if you're doing the veggie version, you're going to be very, very gentle with your delicate meatballs.
Our pasta is almost done as well. I am going to be very gentle. So gentle, in fact, I'm going to use Jeffrey. They firmed up quite a bit. Just like that 2-3 minutes of cooling. Again, I'm not going to be super vicious. I'm going to be very gentle, popping them in. Just to get a little bit of soak up that sauce.
So all those breadcrumbs as well really help.
All those breadcrumbs really helped, yes.
And our pasta is a minute or two off.
And your muffins will be coming out. So you get dinner and dessert. And muffins for breakfast tomorrow morning.
A little bit
if you
of
made some savoury ones.
Muffins, they're best enjoyed very soon after eating. If you are going to eat them tonight, pop them in the freezer or toast them up tomorrow morning. Otherwise, they toast up really well in the oven from frozen. All right. Right. Still not quite done. It's definitely got that white spot in the centre. But as soon as my pasta is fully cooked, I'm going to toss it through my meatballs with the lovely tomato sauce. And we're going to have ourselves a lovely dinner. So yeah, I've got myself a colander set up just in a big sauce pot, just so I can show you draining them if they are done in time. But you have just joined us for another night here at Cookery School. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, please, please tag us on Instagram at Cookery School London, hashtag Cook for Victory. We love to see all of your beautiful results. And what do we
have tomorrow night? Omelettes! Omelettes, fruit salads, egg city again tomorrow night.
So we'll show you our meatballs, and our pasta is very, very shortly on the way. I'm going to get a few of mine. And our muffins are rising very, very nicely as well.
Shouldn't be too long. I would say somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes for your muffins, just depending on your oven. But always rotate it if you can. Skewer in. If it comes out clean, they're done. There's no reason to cook them any further. They don't need the extra 2 minutes if it comes out clean.
Right, there we go. 2 types of meatballs, a veggie and a beef-based one. And my pasta time has just gone off. Everything's going off at once.
Everything's going off. So yeah, those muffins, very pale. If you bounce them, my finger's going to go straight through because they're very liquid. So again, at least another 10 minutes there at a nice hot temperature.
Right. Oh, my pasta is on. So I'm going to drain my pasta just in about 20 seconds. But thank you so much for joining us for another night. It's a little hot and sweaty in here, but we are just about to enjoy our own delicious dinner. So thank you so much for coming once again, and we will see you tomorrow
night for another less hot and sweaty night, but
like no
less
omelette.
delicious. It's going to be delightful.
So yeah,
we will
thank
see
you
you
so
tomorrow.
Much.
Thank you.